coral reefs on the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis are degrading due to global and local stressors including pollution, overfishing, sedimentation, climate change, bleaching, and disease. Over the years, the reefs have lost biodiversity, reef structure, and the ability to provide many ecosystem services. The damage to the once bustling ecosystem has threatened the livelihoods of local communities on St. Kitts and Nevis. Artificial reefs offer a solution to this dire issue. An artificial reef will provide a 3D structure to support a degrading coral reef. It may also provide substrate to promote coral recruitment. Furthermore, fish will be attracted to this new structure in the water. This will improve the local biomass and biodiversity by providing habitat and shelter. In addition, as the reef gets older, the fish born on the artificial reef will spill over into other areas, further increasing fish stock in the area. We at the Blue Marine Foundation will collaborate with local governments to implement artificial reefs around St. Kitts and Nevis.
Blue Marine Foundation is a non-governmental organization with a focus on recovering and sustaining marine ecosystems. Having been founded in 2010, our organization has been part of many great advancements in making a thriving, healthy ecosystem that supports both people and nature.
To accomplish this objective, we strive to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030, while promoting sustainable use of the other 70%.
In St. Kitts and Nevis specifically, we are working on restoring coral reefs with our local partner, Blue Conscience. We use artificial reefs to attain 3 separate goals related to ecosystem health in the area. Artificial reefs are an effective way to reintroduce the third dimension into a degraded reef by adding hard structures that corals can use as substrate. We promote regrowth and repopulation by crevasse-dwelling creatures like crabs and small fish.
Coral reefs are an important spawning and/or feeding ground for an incredible number of different species of fish. By introducing healthy reefs near St. Kitts and Nevis, we aim to support population regrowth, eventually creating a new fishing stock for local fishers.
By attaining these goals, we also promote a long-term ecological and economic resilience, supporting both the ecosystem and the community.
The reef ecosystem in St. Kitts and Nevis is a part of a broader network that also includes seagrass beds and mangroves. Collectively, these ecosystems create a network that sustains marine biodiversity and supports the local population's livelihood. Mangroves act like filters. They trap sediment and pollution before they can reach the reef. They also act as nurseries, offering shelter for juvenile fish and lobsters. Mangroves also store large amounts of carbon, which helps to slow climate change. Seagrass beds have similar positive impacts. They stabilize the seabed and act as nurseries where small fish like snapper and parrotfish can grow up before moving out to the reef. Other species like grunts and barracuda also use seagrass as nursery grounds before moving to the reefs. And both spiny lobsters and queen conch depend on this system too. And then the reef themselves provide a habitat for marine life, while also being protective barriers, dissipating energy from the waves, creating calm, shallow waters where mangroves and seagrasses can thrive. It's all connected, but the balance is fragile. If reefs are degrading, fish recruitment goes down, mangroves and seagrass lose protection, and biodiversity across the system drops. When reefs are healthy, the whole system gets stronger. These ecosystems deliver essential social and economic services for local livelihoods. Fishers depend on reefs for daily catches. Tourism relies on healthy reefs to attract tourists, securing income for the local population on the islands. Dive operators, tour boats, and even hotels rely on vibrant reefs to attract visitors, creating jobs for many young people on the islands. Reefs and fishing also hold cultural importance, passed down through generations as part of local identity. Local communities benefit from coastal protection offered by the reefs and mangroves, which mitigate the effects of storms, hurricanes, and erosion. But right now, reefs in St. Kitts and Nevis are under pressure. Local stressors like overfishing and pollution, combined with global stressors like warming seas and coral bleaching, fisheries productivity has already gone down, which directly impacts livelihoods. That's why pressure on the government to look at artificial reefs as a solution is very present. Managing this socio-ecological system is mainly the responsibility of local institutions. The Department of Marine Resources leads in fisheries and reef management, while the Department of Environment works on pollution control and coastal development. Both of these institutions face challenges like limited funding and staff capacity, which makes it difficult to enforce regulations and monitor reef health. This is why cooperation from local fisheries and communities is also critical for success. This has led to growing interest in artificial reefs as a potential management tool. Artificial reefs can restore structure, create new habitats, and attract fish, with benefits spilling over to nearby natural reefs. Over time, well-designed artificial reefs can even become self-sustaining ecosystems, producing fish rather than only attracting them. But if placed in the wrong location or built with poor materials, they may fail or even harm the environment. But they must be managed carefully, otherwise they risk becoming fish aggregation devices that intensify overfishing. That's why, as the Blue Marine Foundation, our focus is not just on building artificial reefs, but on embedding them in this larger socio-ecological system. With proper management and collaboration with local institutions and communities, artificial reefs can support biodiversity, rebuild fish stocks, and strengthen the resilience of both ecosystems and people in St. Kitts and Nevis. But building an artificial reef and fitting it in a socio-ecological system is not an easy task. To accomplish these goals, we will need help from all kinds of different organizations. These organizations have different goals and resources, so we should be careful about how we treat them and their goals. Locally, we need governmental agencies to help us out by introducing legislation which reduces potential damage to newly restored reefs. This can be done in several ways, the most important of which are education and protection. The people who usually damage reefs are not bad people. By educating them about the way their practices harm the environment and relating it to their own situation, being able to eat seafood, the local population will realize that their practices hurt themselves in the long run. The other way legislation can help is by protecting the environment, limiting harmful practices by making them illegal or fencing off sensitive areas, keeping damaging factors like trawling fishers out. As mentioned, the well-being of the fish and the ecosystem around St. Kitts and Nevis is of course a deep leverage point. Coral reefs are an important breeding ground for fish all around the Caribbean marine system. By creating these environments, we promote system-wide population growth and a greater fishable stock. This simultaneously supports the ecosystem and the economy in local communities. Because of the nature of reefs, the fish originating from these areas contribute to a greater biodiversity in other surrounding systems due to population spillover. The introduction of fish, in turn, makes reef growth in these areas more plausible. Some of the shallower leverage points are things like global warming, the tourism industry, and some global organizations like JICA, IWECO, and UNESCO. These global organizations have a wide range of influence, but a low interest in the artificial reef. This is because a single artificial reef does not change anything on a global scale, and these big companies are forced to only look on the global scale. Islands like St. Kitts and Nevis are heavily dependent on their tourism income, but without clean reefs, there can be no business. So the restoration of the reef system around St. Kitts and Nevis has priority over the tourism industry and making them a shallower leverage point. To accomplish our goal, we will ask government agencies to introduce more legislation that will help protect the surrounding environment and ask for permits that involve building our artificial reef. The second thing we need to do is arrange the funds from big companies like JICA and IWECO to invest in our plan for building the artificial reef. Lastly, we should ask the local communities for their help in developing the project. By educating and involving locals, we aim to breed an interest and drive from these same locals to commit to nature restoration and preservation. Reef health is, of course, not a task the government of St. Kitts and Nevis can solely help us with. To tackle this problem, we need help from a broader range of collaborators. To this end, we aim to involve the governments of nearby islands and their organizations which involve the well-being of the Caribbean reef system as well. In the clear waters surrounding St. Kitts and Nevis lies a story of hope. These reefs are more than coral and fish. They are the beating heart of island life, protecting coasts, feeding families, and inspiring generations. But they face growing threats from climate change, warming seas, and coral bleaching. At Blue Marine Foundation, we're proud to work hand in hand with local communities to rebuild these ecosystems and bring back life to the Caribbean Sea. You can help by learning, sharing, and supporting ocean restoration wherever you are. Join us in protecting the ocean that connects us all.